everyone in the audience that's listening to this can think of a handful of times at least where we have self-imposed routine, or we've tried to, and then we break it by getting chaotic. A classic example, we're coming up to the end of the year, is look at the resolutioners for January. First
Yeah,
2
of
weeks,
course.
everyone's going to be hitting the gym. And then after
Yeah.
that, it gets boring, it gets dull, it's not sexy anymore because that motivation is gone.
It is a very fine line, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I recognise this and trying to, because I felt when I first started my journey, I was like this.
Yeah.
And now I'm slowly trying to get to this, and I'm realising that the things that are bringing me there is the balance of it. Like you say, also being aware internally of what you do and how your reactions to certain things are.
Yeah.
And having a fixed goal, like you say, where you want to go, where you're trying to go.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
So that's basically what I was going through, like constant bouts of order, chaos, order, chaos, order, chaos. And in those points, that's where I was finding something that I was attracted to, that I found appeal in, and I try out. So we started with videography. Then it was content creation. So I started doing like Instagram reels, like aesthetic Instagram reels. I learned about color grading. I learned how to create aesthetic filters. I learned about how to, synchronize clips to like a trendy audio track, right? And I did that to build a social following. I mean, it's
why did you want to build a social following?
so I've always felt that I personally have a message that I want to share with other people. I've always felt like I can speak to others, and I've always found it easy to connect. And with social media, I realized that this is the way forward to whether build a business, whether it's to make strong connections throughout life. Social media is such a useful tool if harnessed correctly. And because I am working on building my business, I think that it is essential in the modern day and age.
The digital age is just there, isn't it? It's the way that people communicate. It's the way that what people listen to.
Yeah.
Like, I think we're losing that peer-to-peer aspect a lot more. I remember back in the day growing up and knocking on my friend's door and just, hey there, let's...
Yeah.
And that it just doesn't happen anymore. Like, even the advancement of telephones, if you think about it.
Yeah, 100%.
It's different. But it does feel like, unfortunately, you either have to get on board to it or you're going to be left behind. But I do think it's quite essential to kind of keep a foot in that space in regards to the groundedness of it all. Because I think that the fact that so much more information is so much more accessible, I think that plays a lot into overwhelm and anxiety of just people in general, because like you can like sit there and feel something and then Google it and then be like, okay, no, it's not that, it's this. And before you know it, you've got all these different like neurons shooting off and you're none the wiser.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a wonderful gift, but it is equally a curse depending on how you use it. So like one thing that I've intentionally been doing like over the course of this year is being very, very focused and intentional with how I use social media. Because before, I was in a complete consumer mindset. I was always watching other people's content. I found myself doom scrolling for hours on end. It was ridiculous. And in doing so, I noticed that there is a certain pathway and a trend that people who do this, or who sort of assign this behavior to their own, say, character profile, is we live vicariously through the people that we watch. So our favorite YouTubers, TikTokers, Instagram, like influencers, whatever it is, we see snippets of their life and then we compare them to ours. Because I found myself doing that. I was like, oh man, I wish I was as fit as him, or I wish that I was able to like do a vlog on like a beach somewhere and just get paid with like sponsorship deals or whatever it is. And then I suddenly had this thought, which is just like the pin drop, which is what started to shift everything from just wanting to just be a videographer was, well, why can't you do it? You have the skill to create videos. You have knowledge that you can share with the world, and I believe everybody can. But in order to reach that point, you need to break past the initial threshold of your lens, your cap, right? Because until then, I was just in this very like insular bubble, thinking, oh well,
Yeah.
I assigned my identity to I was just a medic. I was just a medic from the army. So what business do I have in speaking in front of a screen or a camera, talking about my life lessons, when I just peered my head through that slightly?
And I think the thing is, I think what people don't realise is everybody has something to say.
Yeah.
It's just the difference between the people who are willing to say it
Yeah.
and those who are not.
Yeah.
And I think when you're talking about the social media, there's this, like you do kind of, there's this false connection that you start to have with all these people out there and what you're seeing. And obviously it's true to a sense, but really what's missing is that connection in the self.
Yeah.
And I think once you gain that connection in the self, you can see it all for something different, and you don't have so much of an addiction to it, I would say,
Yeah.
or that need for that dopamine to kind of feel something inside. And you're right, like people need to try and break through that. But sometimes I've realised as well, some people just don't want to. And those people who don't want to, you can't really do too much about that.
Yeah, again, it's also down to their perception of themselves, right? And their perception of what's important to them in life right now. And the thing that I realized when I was kind of breaking out of that same cycle, the cycle of entropy, because you start off, say like you get your paycheck for the month, right? You get your salary, whatever it is. You feel good because you're feeling nurtured, you're feeling abundant, you've got money. Then your bills go out in the first like week of the month, sure, fine, whatever. And then you're like working and ticking through the week. And I remember, like I remember like my last post, I was working at a GP, right, at a military GP. I remember just being sat at the desk. It was like essentially the closest thing to a traditional like 9 to 5 in the clinical setting. I was sat at the desk, just day in, day out, churning the numbers, answering the phone, doing my med clinics. And then one day I just sat there and I thought, there's got to be more to life than this. I was 26 at the time. I'm seeing these other people on YouTube talking about things that they are genuinely interested in, and they're making thriving businesses off of this. Earning capacity is uncapped. Their ability to spread influence and teach people around the world what they know is ever expanding because they're building an audience. And I thought to myself, I didn't realize that I had the ability to do that at the time, but that's what planted the seed. I think everybody has to reach this point, which I call like an inflection point, when you have that thought that spikes awareness, and then it's up to you to then latch onto that and essentially like pull on that thread, which then lifts you into the next state of consciousness.
Well, that's such a lovely visualization.
Yeah. And so I think everybody has that ability, and we do have multiple inflection points in our lives. But again, it's about the ability. It's a skill, right? It's a skill on identifying an opportunity and then taking the chance with that opportunity. Or will you fall back into the safety net of, no, that's not what I do. I am just the medic, or I'm just the accountant, or I'm just the secretary, the PA, or whatever
just
it
like
is.
a muscle, isn't it? And all you have to do is start practicing it.
Pretty much.
And then, and when you think about it like that, it really does make anything possible for anyone.
Yeah.
So how does breath work, and how has that all kind of made its way into what you're doing and how you're thriving?
Yeah. So from a young age, my mom, who's a incredibly spiritual being, she taught me about how to regulate my emotions through breathing. Because I struggled with that. I didn't realize it at the time, but I actually used to get a lot of anxiety. And this stemmed from my childhood. So my parents divorced when I was 2 years old. And while I didn't really understand what was going on immediately in the younger years of my life, I felt it, right? And I would feel the pull. I'd feel the push pull, right? People often talk about like divorce and separations almost as like war. And when children are involved, then they're trying to basically run back and forth over no man's land. So my mom taught me about breathwork techniques, or not so much techniques, but just how to breathe intentionally to soothe and massage my my parasympathetic nervous system to basically stop the noise that was taking over and then sending me into a state of like fight or flight.
Yeah. So how did you do that? What does that look like?
So a classic example, or let me explain to you the methodology first, right? So we as humans, we have a number of thoughts that are flying through our heads, often thoughts that take us back to the past, where we sort of like ruminate or we're reminiscent on opportunities we feel we missed, whether it was like, oh, that relationship could have been better. Maybe if I performed better in this job, if I had maybe chosen to study harder in school or whatever, right? And that takes us into this very like nostalgic feeling where we then start to like self-flagellate. We start to basically beat ourselves down, or we try and project ourselves into the future, and it becomes a very anxiety inducing experience because now we're thinking about a potential that hasn't quite actualized, or if there is a potential that we've seen a glimpse of in the present moment, i.e., for example, like this podcast, coming here and sitting in on this podcast. But then if I was to think about, oh, what if I'm late, or what if there's a sudden cancellation, or what if the roads are blocked, or whatever it is, that then starts to build up anxiety, and we're never in the present. So these thoughts, if you imagine, create like a circuit. And that circuit creates a feedback loop, which takes the mental energy. It then starts to manifest into like an emotional energy, which then brings up an emotion to the surface. And because as human beings, we all have a story, right? We all have a belief system upon which we identify with, and various things. Like our minds are very intelligent systems which will look at ways to identify with the story. And so that feeds into these complexes like, oh, I'm a failure, or I'm constantly a victim to circumstance. Life happens to me, right? The breath comes in as a stopper. It short circuits what's happening there.
Oh, okay.
So for an example,
like when you buy trips in a fuse box.
yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Exactly. So it literally trips the fuse, and it brings you back to the present moment. Yeah. Like it's literally like have you heard of the elastic band theory? So this is something that's commonly used in therapy, where you have an elastic band tied to your wrist, and when you find yourself sort of spiraling or entering a spiral,
yeah, I
you
do
just
it with these all the time.
Yeah, well, that's it, right? So the breath is essentially another method or mechanism of inducing that short stop and short circuiting that thought process. And that creates what I call like a singularity. It creates space. And in that space, you now have the ability to like cognitively think about what's going to serve you most. And this is what I call conscious integrated awareness. So yeah, we like segued from the breath work into this frame of mind, but it's all interconnected.
Yeah, of course.
And then what happens is the breathing, based on the technique, we're either going to spin energy up if we're feeling low, lethargic. We can bring our energy down if we're feeling very amped, and we need to just cool it, calm it down.
Levels it out, doesn't
Yeah.
it? And brings you back to a state of nowness
Yeah.
that you can just operate from a more logical place. Or
Yeah,
don't know
well,
if
I like to
logical
call
is
it
the right
neutral.
place. Yes, a
Neutral.
more neutral place.
Yeah, a neutral place, because depending on your situation or whatever it is, you're going to like naturally want to gravitate to a logical approach or to a more intuitive, emotionally driven approach. Or if you can find the middle ground, I find like the neutral ground is where you can merge the two together.
Kind of like an unbiased state.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And then that's how we actually make the better, more rational decisions. It's like how you can choose to take a more rational approach to a conversation.
And actually get in touch with what it is that you want and how you're feeling, or no, not how you're feeling, but where you're at and where you need to go from that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, this is there's a lot of information here. There is a lot of wonderful information here, and it's I feel like this is why I'm really loving editing and podcasting as well, actually, because I go through this stage where I'm like in trance and like I'm like, yeah, and then I go through and edit and I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I think like more people should record their conversations.
I think they
genuinely,
should,
because
it's so accessible as well. Well, I am so blessed to have you here today.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for joining me and being here and sharing all this wonderful wisdom. And if people are wanting to find you moving forward, where's the best place to do that?
Yeah, so I'm active on Instagram and YouTube. So you could find me at Sravan Alopi. It's my first name, and then ALLOPI. That's my last name. And those are the main two platforms that I'm currently on.
Wonderful. And I see that you've been putting out a few different things on school app. So I guess people should keep an eye out for that.
Yeah. So watch this space. I've got a school community that's been built up. That's all around what I've been talking about. There are different modules based around breathwork, mindfulness techniques, and understanding the deeper layers of ourselves. So that's also being built up more and more, and there'll be more being centralized there. Yeah.
Oh, exciting! I need to just do a happy dance right now because this is cool. This is fun. Oh, awesome! I don't really know how this works, but I've just seen this big sign saying, "Please wrap up."
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
My order reflexes just came into play, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah, we need to just. I guess that's it. They'll stop recording when they are ready. So. But yeah, this is cool.
I don't really know. It is cool, isn't it? It's so much fun. It's really hard not to just get lost in the conversation. I find it really difficult. Sometimes I'm sitting here and listening, but it's almost like my thinking brain just shuts off.
Yeah.
As soon as my thinking brain shuts off, I go a little bit panicky because I'm like, oh my gosh, how can I prepare? I don't know what I'm going to say, sort of thing. But it kind of puts me into a state of flow, I would say. But yeah, I always get awkward in that place.
That's okay. It happens. I mean, there's no need to be awkward. It's just is, right?
It just is.
Just is.
It
but
just is.
Cool. Thank you.